what specifically, in all the conversations that you've had with these Klan guys, what do you think that you do differently that a lot of other people don't?
I think what I do differently is I give them a platform to express their views honestly in a safe place where, they're dealing with their alleged enemy, a black person. I give them a space in which they can express their views without fear of attack or retaliation or whatever, and allow them to discuss them. And most importantly, have a conversation with them. You don't have to respect what they're saying, but you need to respect their right to say it. Nobody wants to be wrong. We all want to be right. And so if somebody says something to you that goes against, what you have believed from the day you were born, but there's a little spark that says that piques your curiosity that you think that person might be right, you're going to begin to shift in that direction. It might not be an overnight turnaround, but over time. I've never gone and said, you know what, you need to get out of this organization, you need to stop this nonsense, blah, blah, blah. Or I don't go on CNN and talk about them and bash them and then tell them to send me their robes and hoods. That doesn't work. It's like dog fighting. You get a dog that's already predisposed to being mean. And, there's certain breeds, that have that disposition, say a Rottweiler, a pit bull, or what have you. And they take these dogs and they beat these dogs, even beat them even more and make them even meaner. And then they put them in the pit with the other dog to fight. So it's like that. If you have something that's mean and you're mean to it, you're making it meaner. You can't beat the meanness out of it. By beating it, you're increasing it. Same thing with hate. If somebody hates you and you're beating on them, they're going to hate you more. It's not like, I'm going to beat the hate out of you. But you can drive the hate out with logic and love and respect. Mm-hmm. And that's the example that I have set. And for me, it has worked.
So if we go down to the list of kind of how to argue.
Well, near the top would be gather your information, get an astute knowledge of the other person's side before meeting them.
Okay.
Review it in your head. Be as familiar with their position, as you are with your own.
Okay. So it's lesson one.
Yeah, because that way you can pretty much know what to expect and know how to react. You might hear things that frighten you. You might hear things that make you angry or make you sad or hurt you. But these are words. And you go in there because that person has an opposing point of view. And that's what you're looking for. That's why you're there interviewing that person, to find out why they think that way, why they want to do these things. Well, of course, you're going to hear things that you don't agree with. But if you go in knowing that, then you know what? You need to keep your cool. Okay. That's number one. And then number two would be to invite them to have a conversation, not a debate. Have a conversation.
What's the distinction?
Well, a debate is, I'm going to make my point and you're going to make your point and we're going to, fight it out verbally. That's a debate, where you're going to argue something. That tends to have them get their guard up. You say, hey, I want to have a conversation with you. I want to understand. I want to understand why you feel the way you feel. I want you to convince me that I need to change my way of thinking. And I appreciate your sharing your views with me. I'm interested in how you feel. And that's what a lot of people want. They want to be heard. They want to be able to speak their mind freely without fear of retaliation or somebody, beating them over the head for their views or ramming their own views down this person's throat.
Okay.
So give them that.
All right. Number three. What's number three on the list?
Number three. Look for commonalities. Okay. And you can find that in 5 minutes. Something. All right. Even with your worst enemy. If you spend 10 minutes with that person, you'll find even more. All right. You're not going to agree on everything, but you'll find something. All right. So find those commonalities and you build upon those commonalities. Like, for example, I don't like you because you're white and I'm black. So I don't like white people or something. All right. And I don't like anything you stand for. You disgust me. It's because of you, I can't get a job where I'm making as much as you are, and I've got the degree that qualifies me for that job, and you're a high school dropout. And so our contention is based upon our races. But you're like, how do you feel about all these drugs on the street and these meth labs that are popping up and all that kind of stuff? Well, I don't like it. I think, the law needs to crack down more on drugs, and people get drugs too easy and become addicted to all this stuff very easily, and it's destroying our society. So you say, well, yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. In fact, you might even tell me, that your son has started dabbling in drugs or whatever. And it's, drugs don't discriminate against anybody. The wealthy, the poor, the black, the white, the whatever. Drugs will take you out. So now I'm seeing, you know what? You want the same thing I want. Because I'm seeing that drugs are affecting your family the same way they might affect my family. So now we're in agreement. So let's focus on that. And as we focus more and more and find these more things in common, the things that we have in contrast, such as skin color, begin to matter less and less. That relationship begins to blossom into a friendship. That's number 3. Number 4, when two enemies, and this applies to anything, it doesn't have to do with, it can be about race, it can be about anything, any hot topic, abortion, nuclear weapons, the environment, global warming, the war overseas, whatever. When two enemies are talking, they're not fighting, they're talking. They might be yelling and screaming and disagreeing and beating their fists on the table to drive home a point, but at least they're talking. It's when the talking ceases that the ground becomes fertile for violence. So you want to keep the conversation going. And the more you keep the conversation going, even though you might be disagreeing or yelling and screaming, the more you keep the conversation going, the more commonalities you will eventually find. You'll find yourself on the same page. But when you can't talk to one another, then you're laying the groundwork for trouble.
So that was 4, right?
That was 4, yeah. That's 4.
What's 5? Is there a 5?
Well, how many do you need?
as many as you got. I think one would be patient.
Yeah, patience, absolutely. And people say with me, they're really surprised that I have been able to do what I've done, and they say, you know what, Daryl, I would not have the patience to sit down with those people. I just don't have the time for that kind of stuff. You know what? I hate to use a cliche, but patience is a virtue. And you have to have patience. Race relations and the racial animus that is the underlying fabric of our country has been around since the first slaves landed on these shores. And the problem is we have not communicated with one another. And now we can find ways to do it, but it's going to take time. And each method, my method works for me. And the reason why my method works for me is because I've taken the time and the patience to learn about the other side. I've read tons of material on the Klan, on the neo-Nazis, on white supremacy, on black supremacy. So I know how the mentality works. And when I go in there, I tend to be a little more disarming than someone who does not have that background, that knowledge. Because while they may not like me because of what I look like and my skin color, they respect me. And I know, there comes a point in time where you say, okay, enough time, now things have got to change. Yeah, but spend the time first before you start trying to force a change. Spend that time first. And then, if that's not working and you need to legislate something or force something, then fine, you have those tools available. That's why we have lawmakers, all right? But the day the law changed to where black people could ride in the front of the bus or not have to give up their seat, the day that law changed did not necessarily change the minds of the white riders. You can legislate behavior, but you can't legislate belief. Patience is what it takes. But patience doesn't mean sitting around on your butt waiting for something to happen. Be proactive. And don't just sit around and talk with your friends who believe the way you do. Invite other people who have differences of opinion. Invite them to your meeting, to your table. Learn from them. Because while you are actively learning about somebody else, at the same time, you are passively teaching them about yourself. And I can tell you right now, I'm going to say that again. That sounds so good. while you are actively learning about someone else, you are passively teaching them about yourself.